This is lesson number 2. I'm presuming you've become fairly adept at doing that standard finger picking pattern that we did in lesson 1. If you've got it up to that standard there, I'd be very happy. You'll notice all of those notes are of even length. We can change the feel of this just by what we do with our right hand without actually changing the order of the notes. So for example, if I put a little bit of a bounce in it. A little bounce, I call it. So just try practicing that to get that little bounce. It's good for ragtime and ragtime blues type pieces, and that brings us to the core of this next lesson. Now I'm going to give you basically a little chord study. Just using that pattern, we're just going to play these chords that I'll show you. We'll call this piece Shallow Creek Blues. It's reminiscent of another tune. See if you can guess what that is. So firstly, you've got to learn a couple of new chords here. This is a form of E7th. I don't know whether you can make it out on the video, but we've got our index finger on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, or B string. Middle finger is on the 6th fret of the 4th string, or D string. Ring finger is on the 7th fret of the G string, or 3rd string. And the little finger is on the 7th fret of the treble E string. Unusual sounding chord, it's really just a form of E7. Well, now if we apply our little pattern, because it's an E7th, we can use our 6 and 4 down here. You'll notice I'm using my thumb pick for this lesson. I'm sort of most comfortable with it, I suppose, these days. I don't need to use it, but again, if you want to use a thumb pick, find one that works for you. It took me years to find what I really wanted in a thumb pick, but I use these little Planet Wave thumb picks at the moment. They're nice and short in this part here that sticks out. I find that some thumb picks are too long and too cumbersome. There's reasons for having good short pick like that. Make sure it fits nice and snugly, not so tight that it cuts off your circulation, but not so loose that it spins around or drops off. Anyway, back to our E7th chord. Now that's just playing it the way that we first learned that pattern. If I add that little bounce that we were just talking about, it becomes that. Now our next chord, don't lift your E7th chord up just for a minute. I want you to leave your ring finger and your little finger where they are, and just lift the middle finger and the index finger. Now with these two fingers that you've left where they are on the 7th fret of the G and the E string, slide them back down 1 fret each, like that, so they're now on the 6th fret. Now you're going to take your middle finger and you're going to put it on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, the B string. Your index finger goes on the 5th fret of the D string, or 4th string. Now that's a diminished chord. We won't go into the technicalities of what a diminished chord is. We might do that in a subsequent lesson at some stage. But a diminished chord is a great little chord, little 4-note chord. Can be moved up and down the neck like this. This one that we're doing here, the unique thing about diminished chords is that every note in the chord is also the name of the chord. So every diminished chord has 4 names. We're going to call it an E diminished because that note there is an E note, the 5th fret of the B string. You know, when you're tuning, it's like that. So that's our diminished chord right there. So now we've got the 2 chords. We've got our E7th chord and we've got our E diminished chord like that. Now we're just going to go backwards and forwards between those 2 chords at this stage. Play it first the way that you originally learned the picking pattern, just with very even notes. 1 bar on each chord. You'll notice that I'm never lifting these up. I'm releasing the pressure a little bit as I change from fret to fret, but I'm not going like this and then taking it all off and starting again. Only lift those fingers that you have to. playing guitar efficiently is all about minimal movement. If you don't need to lift fingers, don't do it. So nice and evenly like that, backwards and forwards. I don't care how slow you go to start with, as long as it's very even. So it could be this slow. Just get used to that change, even if you just practice the left hand part, changing like that. Getting very used to that. When you become fairly comfortable with that, add that little bounce that we were talking about. I'm just going to run you through the rest of the chord progression, at least the first 12 bars or so. I think it's 12 bars, it might be only 8. No, it's 12. So you do 1 bar of each of these. Then back to the first one again for 1 bar. Then you're going to go to an A7th. Now I'm playing an A7th with my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, the D string that is, and my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the B string, or 2nd string. I'm playing, because it's an A chord, or part of a type of A chord, I'm using my 5th and 4th strings, my A and D string for my bass. Same thing with my pattern, played in the original way, or with the little bounce. Now there's good reasons for playing an A7th that way. Sometimes you play it this way, sometimes you play it that way. But for this tune, and in most instances I find it's better to do it that way than anything else. So we've got 1 bar of the E7th, 1 bar of the E diminished, another bar of the E7th, 1 bar of the A7th, then we've got an E, just an ordinary E chord. We're doing 2 bars of that, you'll notice, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and always make sure you add that and after the 4. Lost my track here a little bit, so we'll 1 of this, 1 of this, another 1 of this, 1 of the A7, 2 of the E, then a B7, 2 of the B7th. Now B7th, for those who don't know, index finger, 1st fret of the D string or 4th string, middle finger, 2nd fret of the A or 5th string, ring finger is on the 2nd fret of the G or 3rd string, little finger is on the 2nd fret of the E or 1st string. Very good chord, very usable chord. B7th, we use our 5th and 4th strings, so the A and the D. 2 bars on that. Adding all that together, playing it at about 3/4 speed. Now, second time, so that's once through. Coming to that B7th gives you your turnaround, so called because it turns you around back to the beginning again. At this stage, that's probably as far as I want to take it. We'll do some more in the next lesson. So practice, remember, no more than 30 minutes a day. By all means, play more than that if you want, but make sure that your practice session is sitting down with the conscious effort of being better at the end of the 30 minutes than you were at the beginning.